Hey Zach,
Hey, what's going on?
how's everybody tonight? It's Happy Wednesday.
Yeah, how was your Easter, Kim?
It was absolutely fantastic. So the Easter Bunny definitely came to my house. Um, I can't even tell you how many Easter baskets that I had. The bad thing is I think I've been eating more chocolate than my daughter has. So I
Same.
don't know whether that's good for the pounds packing it on, but it tastes
Yeah,
good going down.
I hear you, and I have a very generous son when it comes to sharing. So I'm very he's constantly like chucking me in the head with candy, right? Like he'll throw it at me and it'll hit me in the face, and I want to get mad, but I can't because he hit me with candy, and I'm like, "You're awesome." So in other news, I am dealing with some car problems again. So I went
Oh
to
no.
go, yeah, there's always something minor with my current car, always something. And so I was trying to go to the grocery store yesterday and I walked downstairs and I go to start the car and nothing. So, I mean,
Oh,
like, my lights came on, my radio came on, everything, but didn't even try to turn over. So I drive a standard, and I think the issue is like the sensor that tells the car, yes, the clutch is down, is worn out. So I've been having to push harder and harder on the clutch to get the car to recognize that, yes, it's go time. So I am on the Lamborghinis until I get that all situated. But
oh,
once
that's the
again,
worst.
once again, yes. So, welcome everybody. Today is Wednesday. This is the second episode of Money Hungry, and we are so grateful to have you with us. We've got quite the show tonight, a ton in the news. We got a couple of funnies. So, Kim, let's jump right into pennies to prosperity.
You got it. Pennies to prosperity. Okay, so the first article tonight, it's actually food delivery drivers say they aren't being tipped enough by customers to make a living. So when you read the article, so there's a couple of really key points to this. Since the pandemic, drivers are saying that their luck has completely ran out, that customers aren't as generous as they were during pandemic time, which is really leading them to really struggle and to make a living. And because of hidden tips, some orders are a gamble, and it's just like gambling in a casino. And it's like, what are you going to get when you actually take an order? And then many of them are focusing on high end restaurants to get those really bigger tips. So it kind of got me thinking when I read this, are we relying on tips, and what are we as drivers really doing to kind of compensate from pandemic time to like current time right now?
Yeah, so I think that this is kind of the ongoing battle, right? The customers think that the company should compensate us more, and the drivers are the ones who get caught in the middle, right? The companies continue to lower the base pay, and the drivers are just the ones who end up making less. Customers are charged, probably slightly more, drivers earn less, and the companies still can't turn a profit. So it's that vicious cycle. But the comparing the pandemic times with tips to where we are now is definitely a night and day difference. Or at least that is my experience. And I know for me personally, I do find myself waiting in a place that has higher end restaurants because I know that there's going to be more tips, right? So I think that, yeah, I think that it's probably a little harder, but there's still plenty of opportunity out there if you're willing to adjust your strategy and if you're willing to multi-app and be out when it's actually busy, or alternatively when you may have less competition from other drivers. What are your thoughts, Kim?
Yeah, no, I actually agree with you on that. I think that from like a human being personal standpoint, I think we were kind of all in the pandemic together. And I think when people ordered through Uber Eats, Doordash, Grubhub, any one of these, unless unless a customer was not a nice person, they tipped their driver generously because they truly appreciated someone coming out when the world was at home. Fast forward, everything is out in the open. People are back to work, people are going to restaurants, times are changing, and I
Yeah.
think that we have to adapt, unfortunately. It's not always gonna stay the same, but that's kind of life in itself. Like, you always in life have to keep adapting to life. It's the same thing with gig work, but not only but, these apps are forever changing too. Like, they don't always stay the same, they're always updating. So, it's really adapting to what's going on. So, yes, I think tips are getting smaller because
Y Sorry, go ahead.
it's okay. Um, but that's kind of my thought on it. But to your point, like I went from in 2020 from going from 2 apps, I'm now up to 12 apps because I kept trying to find what worked for me in my own area to compensate for the times that are changing in my own area, and it was really finding that
Mhm.
combination to still make my daily goals.
Yeah, absolutely. So I see that we have a, USDA certified cherry picker in the house. Sergio, what's going on, brother? And so I think that the thing that kind of pisses me off is I hear frequently that, oh, well, they don't tip in England, right? They don't tip in Australia, and they do well. Tipping is an insult in other countries, right? Well, that's great, and I'm happy that they're paid a living wage in some of these other countries. But guess what? We're not. So if you don't want to pay for a luxury service, get off your ass and get it yourself. Ultimately, at the end of the day, go get it yourself.
Yeah, I I actually I agree with that. But I will say that I mean, I don't go to the extent. In this article, this gentleman actually said that he waits in an alley right beside a really high-end restaurant, and this is New York City, by the way, so I
Mm,
get it. It's a completely different animal, but he waits in an alley right by a high-end restaurant. But it's no different from me parking my car right in front of I have like on four corners really high. I have like an expensive Italian restaurant. I have a steak place. I like there's like four on each corner, and I park myself like literally almost right in the center of like that area because I know if I get an order from any of those restaurants, most likely 80% of the time it's going to be a good order. So I get what they're talking about. And
yeah,
especially, if you have the large order program with DoorDash, like it even becomes even that bigger of a tip. But it's all about, and honestly, it's all about transparency. And I think that's something we can all agree on that we all want as drivers.
yeah,
And it is a gamble. Like when you take an order, you think, okay, and this just happened to me today when I was out working, is I had a subtotal and it was 100 and I think it was like $40. And I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a good order. And then it ended up being $7.25. So
yeah.
it was a gamble me taking it. I took the risk, but it is just a form of gambling. But I took it based off of the face value of the actual order.
Yeah, so I kind of see this a little different than you do. And actually, really quick before I get into that, can we put a rideshare Road Warrior Rick's comment up here, the most recent one from him?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Uh,
sorry.
oh, sorry, Thomas. Tipping may be smaller now, but remember, we're still in an inflationary economy, and there is so much truth to that too, right? I think that everybody is kind of feeling the economic squeeze. So people may be tipping less because their bills are going up. Everything's crazy expensive at the grocery stores. And they're like, well, I just don't have the extra money. But still, at the end of the day, if you can't afford to tip for a luxury service, use those Escalades and go get it yourself. So
I think that's the
I
difference,
agree
though.
with,
No, go ahead. I was gonna say, I think that's the difference though. Like as drivers, we think that it's a luxury service because it really is. But when you're a customer, they don't have that mindset that it's a luxury service. They just think someone's coming to get my food and bringing it to me,
mm,
and that's what they're gonna do. Like I don't think a lot of customers treat it or think of it as a luxury service, where from a driver's perspective, we're like, if you're going to make us go and use our own car and our gas, and the gas, I don't know about you, but my gas prices are rising all over again
yep,
this past week. I don't know it's because of the holiday, but hey, you need to make sure that it's worth our time to get you your food and bring it to your house.
So the way I explain it to customers is they're paying essentially they're paying for three different things. They're paying for the food itself, right? They're paying the booker, right? And then they're bidding for a driver. Ultimately is the way I view it breaking down. So if they don't want to bid that driver, then they can sit and wait for somebody who doesn't know their worth and who is
Yeah.
willing to make next to nothing or even worse, take a loss on that order. But I'm not the one. So,
Yeah.
and can we put that slide up really quick one more time? There was something else in there I wanted to point out. So down at the bottom there, it says now drivers say they still have a hard time turning a profit unless the tip is worth it. So reading that article, if I weren't a driver, I would have made the assumption basically that drivers were getting paid fairly during the lockdown times, and now we're just making a lot less. So I feel like there's kind of some misinformation, probably unintentionally or just uh, yeah, anyway. And a customer reading this article would have assumed or could have safely assumed, could have assumed basically that we were making a hell of a lot more than we were back during the lockdown times in base pay. And that's just not the truth.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with it. It's definitely, you know, I don't think a lot of our customers, and I think this is where the divide comes, realize really what all of these apps actually pay us pre-tip. Like, I think they're under the assumption that it's just like a normal job. Like, I think some customers think in their head, well, they're getting paid to bring me my food anyway, so why do I have to tip? And that's like such a huge
Hmm.
misconception that no, we're an independent contractor. We use our own vehicle. We everything is, on our own. It's just the base pay from these companies is literally peanuts compared to we rely on tips, and that's how a lot of us make a living, and I don't think a lot of customers
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah, for sure. And this isn't the first tipped job that I've ever worked. I was a dealer in a casino for years. And, there's a, I wish I could remember the percentage, but there's a huge percentage of the American workforce that actually does rely on tips for for their job, right? To make up a substantial part of their income. And if they were to, the people who are screeching, I shouldn't have to tip, I'm already paying, right? Okay, well, then let's wipe out every single job that requires a tip and watch the economy completely crumble. There's
Yeah.
there's my there's my tipping rant for the day. So um, we have a segment that we are doing here. It is called Hot Off the Press. And the first story that we want to talk about today is people in three different neighborhoods getting mystery Uber Eats deliveries. So this is happening in Los Angeles and also in a neighborhood of Vancouver, Canada. And some residents are reporting getting as many as 13 deliveries in one day. And one resident even reported getting as many as 40 of these orders. Kim.
It's just it's crazy to me. So I saw this probably about a couple weeks ago, and this was when it was just in one neighborhood in LA, and now this article came out a couple weeks later. Now it's up to
Mhm.
two neighborhoods in LA. And, I was actually thinking, can you imagine, like, in one day, literally ding dong, 13 times saying you're getting McDonald's, you're getting Starbucks, you're getting Taco Bell, and you're like, what the heck is going on? And like, you're trying to figure it out and you can't figure it out. And man, like, and they were saying it's like literally like a McChicken sandwich or it's like a cheeseburger. They were trying to find places to donate it to. It's like, to me,
Yeah.
it's just crazy. I know from a mom perspective, if someone was ringing my doorbell, even if I had a baby or even a small kid, I'd be pretty upset that my doorbell keeps ringing up to like 13 times. Someone said that they got it like 2 a.m. in the morning, which is just
Oh,
absolutely crazy.
that's unnecessary. So, some of these residents are speculating that this is boiling down to criminals trying to do something nefarious. Although the police push back on that, some residents are speculating that it's some kind of criminal activity taking place. Kim, what are your thoughts?
So I have a couple of thoughts on this. So a couple of residents actually thought that it was like burglars trying to scope out their neighborhoods to see if they were home by sending deliveries to their house. The cop said absolutely not. It's not even a possibility. I personally think that it's some kind of credit card scam going on. I think that they're trying to test to see, you know, or maybe even throw it off sent that, okay, it's going to multiple, so we don't know where it's coming from to see how far they can get away with charging people's credit cards. So I think for the most part, I think it's part of a credit card scam. Conspiracy theory wise, I have a little bit of conspiracy theory, and we're going to talk about scam. I know we're going to talk about scamming in a little bit later on in the show, but what happens if it is some of these scammers trying to hack into our DoorDash or Uber Eats accounts because they know where
Hmm.
they're sending their drivers, they know what order they're on, and they're claiming to be support that they're canceling the order. So that's my
So
conspiracy theory.
that I love a good conspiracy theory, and that's a very good theory. I my okay, again, my baseless assumption, and this is not based on any information that is known to be factual or anything like that. This is just my own personal, like, if I had to throw out a theory, it'd be this. I am wondering if these are criminals who are buying stolen credit card numbers online, and they want to test to make sure that they work. And so they're ordering random food deliveries and seeing if the orders actually go through, or if they get flagged by the credit card company, or they get that payment decline screen. Um, but can we just take a moment to appreciate how much damn Starbucks that is?
That is
Like
a
like that
lot
is
of
like
Starbucks.
that is like a PTA dream right there.
Right? Can you imagine, like, how many orders a day do you that's a really good point. Because how many orders a day do you get to go to, like, schools with Starbucks or even Dunkin', or like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
it's another school ordering this,"
Well,
but yes.
well, I'll tell you what, I don't have Dunkin'. I don't have that other one in my market,
You don't
and
have Dunkin' Donuts in your market?
nope. Nope.
Shut
Actually, matter
up.
of fact, no, I'm serious. Actually, matter of fact, I just about 2-3 weeks ago got a Panera bread. So yeah, we're a little behind the times here. And now I don't mind the Starbucks orders because if you're careful, you won't end up at high school. So, but the Starbucks orders typically in my market pay pretty well. I usually do anywhere from like 7 to like $12 on those, and they're usually only going a couple of miles. So those are the type of orders that I want to see all day, every day. But I don't want them randomly showing up at my house at 2 o'clock or in the morning, or whatever time you said that was, 1 a.m. Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, to your point, I definitely would not want somebody beating on my door, trying to, you know, get that delivered, right? I mean, you would hope that they would at least have, leave it at the door and do not knock as their instructions. But so I want to take a moment here to move on to our next story. And this was an Uber Eats driver in Toronto, Canada, who got busted going 160 kilometers an hour while on a delivery. Now, for those of you who may not know the conversion, that is 100 miles an hour.
Oof.
So he got pulled over, and he just basically said, "Hey, I got a time constraint here on this Uber delivery, and I'm rushing to get this delivered." So he ultimately was he was definitely ticketed, but he had his car impounded for 2 weeks, and I think he lost his license for a week as well. Let me double check that. Kim, what is the fastest that you've ever driven to get an order delivered?
Um, I drive like a grandma, so I'm probably not the best person to answer that. I just
Yeah,
believe that Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, any of these companies aren't worth me getting a ticket or points, or it's,
yeah,
they're these tickets are absolutely ridiculous. Court fees, like, do you know how much money you would have to pay court fees just by getting a speeding ticket? To me, it's just not worth it. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I
I
guess the
haven't gotten
mom
one
in
in
me,
ages.
yeah, it's just me. I just drive like a grandma. Call me an overcautious mom, maybe. I don't know, but I just don't think any of these companies are worth me getting a speeding ticket over, and I think it's a lame excuse.
So, okay, this guy's car was impounded for 2 weeks and he lost his license for a month. If I got busted doing 100 miles an hour, so this guy was actually going, he was going 45 miles an hour over the speed limit. So 70 kilometers over, 45 miles an hour over. If I were doing that, that would have been reckless driving and possibly reckless endangerment, depending on how bored the cops were. And I probably would have gotten arrested and lost my license. Like that wasn't like a, slap on the wrist and, say sorry and, you're back in your car a month later. That would have been jail time and standing in front of a judge. So go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking, like, I feel like here you'd be like arrested on the spot just for reckless
Yeah.
endangerment going 100 miles an hour because at that point your car is a weapon. I don't know. I just, in the business we're in, like, take care of your car. That's like your bread and butter. That's how you're making money.
Yeah.
And if this person was serious about making money, then he wasn't too serious about it, or he wouldn't have gone 45 miles over the speed limit, which to me is absolutely
Yeah.
crazy.
So he was stating that he was on a time constraint from Uber. He had a deliver by time. And so Kim and I were having a conversation about this before the show, and she and I are seeing two different things in our markets. So my take was that he was trying to lie to the cop to get out of a ticket. And but Kim was like, I'm actually, she's seeing these deliver by times in her market. And although I have seen them, they're like few and far between. They're just not really a thing. So it
They've
seems
been
like it's something that they're testing, but they haven't fully implemented here.
They've been popping up on majority of my orders. It actually comes up almost right underneath the customer's name, and it says, "Customer is expecting
Mhm.
order by," I'm making this up, "2 p.m., 1 p.m."
Yeah,
But one of the things I love about Uber Eats prior to that is there are no time constraints. Like, I felt like I was never like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna be late to a restaurant. I'm gonna get a contract violation." Like, I
yeah,
never had that feeling with Uber Eats. Them putting that time on it, like, honestly, it still doesn't make me move any quicker or slower. Like, I go at my own pace that's right for me getting to these restaurants. If I'm stuck in traffic, I'm stuck in traffic. In my case, I have a train station right in the middle of my town, so I get stuck by the train all the time.
that's rough.
It is
That's
because you
yeah,
get one
that's
train
rough.
going one way, one train going another way, and, like, you're stuck there for, like, 10 minutes, and you're like, "Oh my god, are you kidding me?"
Yeah. I'm really lucky in my city because there's only two places I can think of where the train crosses in my actual town before going one town north. So and I never go there. Maybe three actually, but they're all like super industrial or like right down on the beach. So, there's no deliveries down there and I just don't have to worry about it. But
Oh,
yeah, no, I'm
you're
with
lucky.
you. Take
You're lucky.
take the contract.
No, I was gonna say you're lucky because, like, mine are commuter trains into New York City, so
Oh,
they're literally like, they're every couple of, like, maybe a half hour to an hour on the weekends. It's a little bit
yeah.
more spread because they're on weekend schedules, but they're literally commuter trains one's coming in, one's coming out, and they tie up
So
traffic all the time.
So you say you drive like a grandma, but you've got these trains that the schedule, right? If you're like driving in that general direction and it's going to be cutting it close, are you gonna go 3 or 4 or 5 over? Or are you just gonna say, if I hit
Maybe
the train,
it
I hit the train?
depends. I learned my lesson because last year, and I can remember it was Cinco de Mayo, I got stuck by the train, one coming in, one coming out, and I was that car right before the gates went down, and
Oh,
I'm like, "Okay, I have plenty." Like, they always give you plenty of time. I'm like, "I have plenty of time." I didn't even pay attention to the time on DoorDash, got it delivered, contract violation for being late.
mhm.
and I tried filling out the forms that it didn't do anything. So now I'm very cautious about time. I don't unassign for anything, but if it means that it's going to be a contract violation, I probably will now just unassign if that ever happens to me again.
Yeah, that's fair. If I'm going to be excessively late to an order, I typically unassign it too.
Yeah. Live and learn,
So,
as they say.
"C'est la vie," I believe is the
Is that
saying.
what it is? Like, is that what it is?
So there's a gentleman in Atlanta who is very not pleased with a virtual restaurant delivery that he received on Uber Eats. So this man believes that he was catfished by food, or in this case, I guess specifically the restaurant. So if you have a look at the picture on the far left and the second picture from the left, so the far left picture is what he thought he was ordering, and the second one with the shrimps and like the stuff that looks like throw up is what he actually got. Now, if you look at the far right with the sweet yams and the potatoes, that's what he thought he was ordering, and the picture next to that is what he got. So this man was needlessly not very pleased, right? I mean, the food never looks like it does in the apps or on the commercials. You know, they're throwing motor oil on there to look like maple syrup, and they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. You know, shoe polish for to give it like a burger a char grilled effect. But this isn't even close. That looks like okay. The first thing on the left that looks gourmet. The second thing looks like something that a drunk 3-year-old would make.
When I
Drunk
saw
3-year-old.
this,
We're
when
just gonna let that pass.
I know. I just laughed because I'm like, yeah, really. The first thing I saw this, I'm like, is catfishing food like a thing? Like, I thought that was for like online dating, and then I was thinking, I'm like, okay, well, like, I guess you can call this catfishing in some sort. But when I first read this, and I'm thinking from a customer's perspective, I personally don't expect my food to show up like the pictures that are on the app because I feel like that's really unrealistic. And then the pictures that they showed, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's just really disgusting. I'm like, who would
Yeah.
actually eat that? But then the article, I mean, he went down to say, and this is what I find funny, that he actually went on the internet to find the picture that Uber Eats had on their website and that the restaurant had on the website. And he found it on, I think it was like Google or something like that. And that's how he figured out that they were taking images off of the internet and then just putting them on this restaurant's website for Uber Eats. And I'm thinking, man, this guy has a lot of time on his hands if he's trying to figure out where these pictures are coming from.
And he found them.
That's another thing.
He
He found
he
them.
found them. That's the wild thing about this. So this gentleman initially reached out to Uber support to try to get the order refunded. He was expecting something gourmet and got something that looked like a dog puked it up. So Uber support did not refund him. They said that it is up to the individual merchants how they choose to prepare an item, and they encouraged him to go in and rate the restaurant. So, Kim, if you received that, are you leaving a rating, or are you just saying, "Wow, that's terrible," and moving on?
Um, that's a good question. Depends on how mad I was regarding the situation. Sometimes when you're fighting for something, it's like the principle behind your fight.
Mm,
And so it depends on how mad you are behind it. You know, we always think that Uber Eats, DoorDash, like they always take the side of the customer. And clearly in this case, they didn't. They said, go do a rating, but that doesn't
yeah,
solve the customer's problem. I guess I come from a customer service industry and background. Like
yeah.
you take care of the customer no matter what it is. Basically, Uber Eats said, "Yeah, good luck, buddy. Go rate a restaurant."
Yeah. So, and this was a TikTok thing, a viral TikTok. And this is one of the few occasions where I actually believe the person on
Yeah.
TikTok. They showed the Uber app and they showed the conversation with support with them refusing to refund. And, I part of me feels bad for this guy and part of me feels bad for laughing. It's a lighthearted story, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't have been too pleased if I got whatever that is at my
This is
doorstep either after.
actually Yeah, this is actually a good question. Do you think customers want the same quality of food like the restaurant? Like, do you think their expectations are the same
For
getting it
delivery?
at home? Yeah, getting it at home, that if they actually go and sit down at a restaurant?
I would assume so.
See, I expect the same taste. I don't
Mhm.
expect the same presentation because how can like these chefs, especially if you go to a high-end restaurant, like they're plating it on a really pretty plate and you get it at your table and you're like, "Oh, that's so pretty. Do I even want to eat it?" But then you get it at home and it's like thrown into a container and it's like, "Here you go." So the
Yeah,
taste
okay.
might be there, but is the
Mm,
presentation right there? So taste versus
okay.
presentation? I don't know.
That's fair, but I think so in all fairness, I think that if this guy were to go to this restaurant, and I understand it was a virtual restaurant, but for argument's sake, let's say it wasn't, and this guy could actually go to this restaurant and order whatever that is. I I'm pretty sure that would still come out looking like that. I don't think it's gonna look pretty no matter what they do. That just that looks like something that a broke college kid would make. So
Y Yeah, this is actually I expect my fajitas to be sizzling upon delivery.
yeah, John. Yeah, that would be a trick for sure for the driver. Show up with forget a hot bag, man. They got a hot plate just with that sizzling fajita,
I
and
don't think
if that
as I said, I don't think any hot bag in the world would bring you a sizzling fajita.
nope. If that thing shows up sizzling, that driver deserves a 25 dollars tip and a 5-star rating.
That's where the 100 miles per hour came into. He was delivering sizzling fajitas.
There you go. And he wanted that 5-star rating and the extra $25.
There you go.
So, yeah, needless to say, this customer isn't happy with Uber. And now you might not be either. Uber just suffered another data breach.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun dun
I read
dun.
this I
This is
know.
the this is
I read this article and I'm like, "Again?" Like, I'm like, "Didn't we just go through this with Uber?"
we did. At least they didn't try to hide it this time.
That is true. Maybe they learned their
So,
lesson on hiding things.
yeah. So Uber suffers their third data breach in 6 months, a security firm found. And they estimate that 77,000 Uber rideshare and Eats drivers were affected by the data breach. So you and I possibly could have been affected by this. Anyone probably in the chat could have been affected by this. If you guys got any sort of an email or a communication from Uber stating that your information was compromised, leave it in the chat. I'd love to hear about that. But among the things that were leaked were like names and addresses and social security numbers and, like very, very personal information. But for me, this poses a really interesting question because 3 times in 6 months, Kim, something is really wrong here for 3 times in 6 months.
It's absolutely crazy to me that we entrust these companies, DoorDash, Uber Eats, any one of these companies, we entrust these companies with our personal information. And anytime I hear about a data breach, like I just go, oh my God, like, is my information out there? And I think everybody should have that
Mhm.
reaction just because your information is valuable. It's who you are. So, like, it
For
should
sure.
raise concerns for every driver. Granted, it was 77, was it 77,000? I think it was
77,000.
77,000. So that's like, you know, a really small percentage based off of how many drivers they actually have. But still, how do you even know if you were affected by this data breach? And I just feel
Yeah.
like they need to do something because it keeps happening for a lot of these companies to be tech companies. Like they're not
Mhm.
acting like tech companies.
Yeah. So, and the thing that I find particularly alarming about this is They claim that the issue was resolved by changing system passwords. And I'm sorry, guys, this is my inner geek coming out here. But if a company as large as Uber can be hacked by having weak passwords, they have much bigger problems. This is going to happen again.
I just don't. I when are they going to learn? That's what I just keep saying. Like, when are they going to learn? Because not only that, but and believe me, I'm far from being a hacker, but I'm thinking common logic. If a hacker keeps knowing through even news articles that this company is vulnerable to hacks, don't you think more hackers are going to keep trying to get in because they know that
Hell
they're hacked?
yes.
to,
Absolutely.
to me, that's just
Every
common sense.
rebellious 16-year-old who has a love for tech and a disrespect for authority is going to try to be getting in if they think they could.
And I think I read in the article, wasn't one of their data breaches actually a 16-year-old just because he thought it would be fun?
I don't know for sure if it was one of the previous ones. I don't know, but that I'll have to look that up. That would be interesting to find out.
I feel
But
like I
again, I
read
mean,
that somewhere.
if if this were some unknown, I remember back in the day, I'm not going to get overly technical here, but there was an issue with the kind of encryption that websites use to it's called SSL. And there was an attack called Heartbleed. And when this first came out, it basically made millions of sites vulnerable to attack, right? And none of them knew that, right? It was a 0 day. It was a brand new thing that they were like scrambling to figure out how to fix. And stuff like that, right? Like that's within the realm of, I don't want to say like it's understandable because, they should have strong systems in place to mitigate those sort of things to begin with. But if you don't know what you're looking for, I have a little more sympathy for the companies. But if you have if you are an Uber server and you have a password that is password 123, that's a problem.
No, it's Uber 123. Get it right.
So anyway, yeah. So third time in 6 months, and hopefully I'm wrong with that, but yeah, it's getting a little ridiculous here. And again, at least they were forthcoming and honest about the fact that it happened again.
Yeah. Remember, Kim, remember companies pay off lawsuits because they have the money.
Yeah, very true.
Do,
Very
do,
true. So,
if they have the
sometimes,
money, do they really is this like a drop in the bucket for them when things like this happen? It might be really important to us because our information is out there, but is it as important to them when stuff like this happens?
yeah. So, it, I think with companies this large, it's easier for them to pay to apologize than to get it right in the first place. So, it's unfortunate, but hopefully they do the right thing and notify every driver who was affected by this and give them some sort of, credit monitoring or something, so, nobody can steal their identity. There was a, uh, Zach, we just deliver food, not supposed to be tech geniuses. That's awesome. I'm very nerdy, so I could have went super technical on that, but I tried to go as high level as I could there. Um, Kim, we face sketchy situations from time to time, and such was the case for one DoorDash driver in New Mexico. So this winner here decided that because part of his order was missing, that he was going to call the driver and have them come back. And after some words were exchanged, he pulled a gun on him, demanding he get the rest of the order. I don't, the conversation wasn't published. I just know that he pulled a gun on the driver. And the driver acted very quick, and his thinking in this moment was perfect. He obviously, with a gun pointed at him, could not have called 911. So instead, what he did was he pretended like he was looking around the app trying to find a solution to this guy's problem. And he found the one use, in my opinion, for the ADT button. He was able to press the emergency, I need police at my location button without this guy being aware what he was doing in the process. Kim, what are your thoughts?
As a driver, I would never go back to someone's address regardless of what they're saying or not saying. Um, because of situations like this, I think this is a huge safety risk. So, DoorDash, Uber Eats, they will never, like, if something's wrong with someone's order, they will never tell you to go back to someone's address
Yeah.
and correct it. So that's first
Yeah.
thing. They weren't specific enough to say what words were exchanged. According to the officers, they showed up and there was heated words going back and forth between the two of them. I don't know. I don't believe in confrontation at all when it comes to anything, or any driver, I should say, versus customer.
Hmm.
So to me, I'd be like, I'm sorry, you're going to have to take it up with Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, and they'll rectify your problem. I think it
So,
just went way above where it needed to go.
so there's a new technique that I've been working on when I'm driving and a customer calls me, and it takes a little bit of skill to execute this flawlessly. But hear me out. We're going to go down the rabbit hole for a minute. When a customer calls you, don't answer the phone. Just don't even answer. If you have dropped off the order, your business with that person is done. You owe them nothing at that point. So that's my 2 cents. And of course, I don't think that the driver deserved to have a weapon pulled on him. But at the same time, he wouldn't have had it happen if he didn't show back up. So this was, I don't want to say he invited it, but he also didn't prevent it. And I'm glad that nothing happened to him, but it didn't have to be a
Yeah,
thing.
I had not anywhere near a situation like this, but I had a customer. I dropped off their DoorDash order, and the ticket matched the number that was on my phone, but I guess it was McDonald's and they put the wrong things in the bag. So the ticket was right, but the items in the bag weren't right. But we all know McDonald's bags are sealed. Customer actually texted me right in the in messaging saying, not a nice word, starting with a B, "You got my order wrong. I demand you to come back and correct it right now." And
Demand.
yes. And I was, even though she cursed at me, I still responded back, "I am sorry, you need to contact customer support and they will take care of it from there." And she continued on. So of course I called support,
Yeah.
and support actually was fantastic. They took my side and they said that any cursing, profanity, or threats to a driver bans the customer automatically from DoorDash, and they were taking care of it on their end. And they could pull up the messages that she actually sent, and she
Yeah.
actually read them back to me. So it's, since it's a DoorDash, if this person contacted them via chat, like, you can just go to support and they will take your side on something like this. You don't have to go back to someone's house.
Yeah, for sure. So unless something has changed in the last 3 or 4 months, I am a little skeptical that they do block these customers. I did a video a while back about how DoorDash is now they were implementing some safety features, long story short. And one of those things was that you could request that a customer be blocked. And I had multiple cases with hardly any research. I mean, I was like 20 minutes into researching that video, and I found 3 people that requested somebody blocked who got them again. So I do hope that it was a fluke and that they've since corrected this, but I am skeptical that they are blocking customers. So if you
Yeah.
have somebody who is acting like that towards you, it's always a good idea to remember their name and address. Keep a little block book, as I call it. Instead of a little black book, have a little block book. And do not ever rely on these companies to protect you. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if something's sketchy or janky, it's on us to protect ourselves.
Yeah,
But
I
I am
definitely
glad that
think
support took your side.
Thank you. I do believe that we are responsible out, what we can control for our safety. And I'm with you though. You did say one thing. I'm with you that if they call after delivery, don't answer your phone, because if you are driving, you're really not supposed to be answering your phone and talking on the phone anyway. So, you know what? To me, once it's
Yeah.
delivered, your order is done. Whether it's text, whether it's phone call, at that point, you need to contact support and they will help you from there.
Each order we deliver is a contract. And as soon as that order is delivered, that contract is completed and you no longer have any obligation to anybody involved in that. So, absolutely, just move on. So, anyway, this guy was charged. We kind of went on a tirade there for a moment, but uh, so this gentleman, this not gentleman, this guy was charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon after he pointed the gun at the DoorDash driver. The article says that the driver got the article wrong, but we all know that that was not the case. So the restaurant obviously messed up something with the order, or at least alleges the customer. So when the authorities arrived, they obviously witnessed some stuff going down, and the customer was ultimately arrested and charged with a felony. So he is pending trial, but unfortunately, a judge did release him on standard release conditions. Whatever that means in the legal term. And one of the stipulations of his release is that he cannot possess any sort of weapons, and that obviously includes a gun. So definitely a win for the drivers on that. Doesn't sound like he was somebody who should have had one to begin with, and he's going to be paying for that mistake for a long time. That ended up being a very expensive DoorDash order for him. So I'm grateful that the driver was okay, but guys, this is the situation we could avoid. So that's
And hey, we now know the ADT button works.
yeah, that's really good to know. So, and I was thinking, and it's funny because I've kind of criticized that. I'm like, when would you ever do that? Like, you should just call 911 yourself. And but hey, I guess I ate my words on that. I'm willing to admit that I was wrong. This guy found a use for the ADT button, and the customer was none the wiser that he had alerted the cops and that they were on their way. So, bravo to that driver. I don't know that I would have been thinking that clearly if I had a gun in my face.
I probably wouldn't either. But hey, like I said, ADT does work. There is a use for it. Hey, if you're ever in a bad situation, you know what? Now you know that it works and you can use it. And hey, police were called, and it seemed like they responded almost instantly from what the
Yeah.
article was actually saying. So, I feel like we do food, like, we do food delivery, we do grocery delivery, like, is it really that necessary to pull out a gun on somebody? Like,
No.
I just it's just to me, just unnecessary.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. It was something that just devolved quickly, and it shouldn't have ever been an issue to begin with. Should have been a simple conversation. Hey, I'm sorry, the bag was sealed. You need to contact support, and they'll take great care of you, and you can move on. So,
Yeah.
um, I want to introduce you guys to a TikToker and also an Instacart driver named James. And James recently had a video go viral where he was imploring drivers not to accept no low or no tip orders on Instacart. So the order that he was showing there was, I think it was 43 items. We can't see the second number here, but I think it was 43 items. And he said that he was being expected to drive to the store, shop for, so it's 22 items, 43 units, shop for those items, drive to the customer's house and unload them in 6-degree weather. And this gentleman was so articulate, but his rant was so good. Kim, I love rants. I do rants. I love rants. So what are your thoughts? He was basically trying to convince other Instacart drivers to basically boycott these order types because his ultimate goal was to make those customers go to the store and get it themselves.
I feel like I'm gonna be Sergio for half a second and know your worth. But what I find funny about this picture is this probably started out as a $7 order because that's the base for Instacart, at least in my area. And as you see, it says boost. I think it says boost included, which means that Instacart wasn't getting it done and they boosted it up to $11 because it's a no tip order. What I actually one of the best features I think about Instacart, and I am not an Instacart person. I have it. I do Instacarts every once in a blue moon. I'm not a big fan of it, but the one thing I do like about it is there are no acceptance rates. So as a shopper, you can take or not take anything you don't want. For me, I see something like that and I just move on and look for another order that might suit me better. So you never have to
Yeah,
take anything and you're not forced to take anything. So, but I honestly think it's absolutely for when it comes to shopping, and this also goes for food delivery because food delivery has shopping now too. I think you are doing more work than just going to a restaurant picking up food. Like you're actually
for sure.
shopping for somebody's groceries, and some of them are hard. Like you think it's normal stuff, but like people come up with the strangest stuff that you're like, in what aisle? What is this? Like, it could be like the gluten free section or it's like the meatless section. And like it's stuff you've never heard of before. And you shake your head and
Yeah.
go, man, you should have come done this yourself because I have no idea where this is at. Um, so that's my tirade on Instacart. But I think customers should tip accordingly based off
Yeah.
someone actually doing your shopping for you.
No, I completely agree. I think it's a common courtesy if you're asking somebody to drive to a store and shop for your items and bring them to you, yeah, come on now. But there's one thing that I agree he should just decline it, but there's a bigger problem with Instacart that could possibly be at play here for this guy. And that is the fact that Instacart requires you to have at least a 4.7 rating
Yeah.
to see batches at the same time as everybody else. Otherwise, you see them 30 seconds after. And so, depending on his rating, that could potentially be why this guy was seeing nothing but, low tip or no tip orders because all of those reasonable offers were getting snagged up by drivers with higher ratings.
Not really, because well, I'm gonna disprove that just a little bit because I
Okay.
actually have a 5-star rating and I still see see orders like that. So he might not see the really good orders that like
Yeah.
5-star drivers see, but like I see these orders all the time and just shake my head and go, yep, next.
Yeah.
So
So,
you're still gonna see them. You're just gonna probably not see the higher paying orders.
yeah, and that was part of his gripe was that's pretty much all he was seeing was these garbage orders. So he wasn't given the chance to make a reasonable, I don't want to say living, but like accept the reasonable orders. He was getting the leftover trash, is what it felt like after watching his video.
Yeah, see, I know there's a lot of people who love Instacart. I treat Instacart like as part of almost like food delivery. Like if I have a slow time with food delivery, I'll throw on Instacart. And if I can get like a single batch to order that's like 5 items, 10 items, and it's like $10 to $15, I'll run in, I'll
Yeah,
grab a couple of items, I'll get it delivered, and I treat it like food delivery. Like I'm not that person that goes and shops for like 2 and 3 batches and 100 items. Like that's just beyond my scope of Instacart. But I know some people who
yeah,
make like really good money on Instacart. I'm just not one of those people. So if he's a person who relies on Instacart, I completely understand his rant because like it's a lot of work grocery shopping for someone to not tip anybody.
yeah. No, I agree with you completely. Um, I just will never understand the mentality of, oh, I don't need to tip, right? Even though we're doing them such a huge, service, I just don't understand the mentality.
Yeah, I don't understand no tipping regardless of um in any food delivery whatsoever. Like I just food delivery, grocery shopping, even restaurant, hostess, whatever, getting your hair done. Like, no tip is just not acceptable in any industry. I think if you are going for a service, you're expecting a service, you pay for a service.
I mean, I would be embarrassed to order groceries and have somebody cart them up flights of stairs. This is just my own perspective, right? I would be embarrassed for myself if I didn't tip that person. I have ordered through Instacart a few times in the past, right? And I think the least I have ever tipped was $20. And we're talking that was only, maybe 8, 10 items, just some, necessities that I really needed and couldn't get out for. So, you know, it, I don't know. It's a different mentality is the problem, right? And that's where drivers and customers butt heads.
Yeah.
The customers think they're already paying for it, and the drivers think that they're not getting paid enough for it.
I guess when I don't use Instacart that often, I use it every once in a very blue moon. I used it more during pandemic times, just like everybody else,
Yeah.
just for not leaving the house. But I was always so appreciative of someone like literally going and shopping for me so I didn't have to do it. Like I
Yeah.
was like tipping like 30% just because I appreciated them so much. And I'm probably wrong by saying this, but I'll say it anyway. Like I think when it comes to shopping, me personally, a minimum should be 20% just based off of the workload that's expected out of someone going and doing it. I'm not saying it's mandatory. I'm just saying, like, how, like with DoorDash or even Uber Eats, they, suggest right off the bat, 15%, 10%. I feel like
Mhm.
with grocery delivery, like the suggested tip should actually like start at 20% just based off of the workload.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And if you've got cases of water or cases of soda, it should be even higher. There should be trigger items. I'm sorry. If you order a case of water and you're on the fourth floor, that should be a trigger item. And cases of soda, water, right? 50-pound bags of dog food, like all of that stuff. That should trigger an extra fee that goes to the driver, in my personal opinion. So I want to highlight Christopher Taylor's comment here. Can we pop that up? His most recent one. Thank you. I thought it was funny that Dara got tip baited while delivering on Uber Eats. Did you hear about this, Kim?
I did. I was actually reading about it the other day. Actually, Christopher Taylor actually sent me the article
Oh, okay.
regarding it. And I actually kind of thought it was very truthful of what drivers actually experience. So I feel like he got like a true driver experience by experiencing tip baiting.
It's so true. Um, Sorry. Um, Computer started acting up. Uh, okay. All right. Whew. There we are. Okay. Sorry. It was like all frozen and I wasn't sure if I was still, yeah.
You
Anyway,
weren't
yeah.
frozen
The,
on our end, so you're good.
okay. So Dara, getting tip baited is like poetic justice in my opinion. And, um, I mean, maybe he could see how infuriating that is, right? Somebody who's making that much money might look at it and go, oh, that sucks, whatever. Right. But there's also the possibility that, um, he could, find it infuriating and do something about it.
I think it needs to be something that is on their docket as a company to look at, just because, man, it is infuriating. It has only literally, it doesn't happen very often to me, but when it happens to you, it is the most infuriating thing as a driver. Like, I feel like you can experience because I set goals for myself. Like, I'm a goal setter. So when you're expecting a certain dollar amount and then it gets taken away from you, you now have to do even more money than what you were originally planning on doing, which means you might be staying out longer or you might be taking an extra order you weren't expecting. Like, it almost is, it's defeating. And I don't think any driver should ever have to feel like that from a customer taking away something that was promised to them. I'm a big um ugh, I'm a big advocate for no tip baiting because I just think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure. If the driver's experience was truly that bad to warrant reducing the driver's tip, then they should probably just get a full refund.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, it's only happened on Uber Eats for me a couple of times. It hurts when it's like those $8 orders. For me, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was a shop and deliver order. I was mad. I was mad because not only did I just do a 20, I think it was like 22 items, but the payout was supposed to be like $36. So it took me a little while more than normal because it was like strange stuff that I've never heard of before. It's not like it was like apples, bananas, and mac and cheese. It was stuff I'm like, what? What? I don't understand what you're shopping for, but I found it and there were no substitutions. I was so proud of myself.
Of course not.
And an hour later,
Oh, okay. You didn't have to substitute.
no substitutions. I was so
Okay.
proud of
Okay.
myself.
I
Pat
gotcha. I
myself on
gotcha.
the back. And yep, tip it on a grocery shopping. I
That's
was mad.
that's
Mm.
terrible. That is terrible. And I get tip baited on average. I figured this out once, about once every 200 deliveries. And the thing that I find weird about people who tip bait is like they know, like they've got to have some big old balls on them or something. Like we know where they live. Like we just delivered their order. Like how do they think that they're going to screw us, right? And just they're playing with fire, right? Obviously I would never encourage a driver to go and retaliate in any way, shape, or form, but you never know who is unhinged. That could have been the difference. The amount that was tip baited is that could have been the difference in them paying their rent or a phone bill or something big on time and not. So I just don't understand tip baiting. And you're right, it shouldn't be a thing. And to me, it would seem that the companies wouldn't want it to be a thing either.
Yeah, I feel like we had never evolved. Like this has been ongoing, God, since I started back in, I forget when I started Uber, 2019,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
Yep.
But I remember the very first time I got tip baited and I put it out there in the YouTube world and somebody commented and it stuck with me to this day and I would never tell anybody to do this, but people who tip bait, drivers have your address. They know where you live.
Yeah.
And to your point, like it could be a huge safety issue if you get the wrong driver and you make the wrong
Yeah.
driver mad. And it works both ends. It works, for the safety of the homeowner, even though I think what they did is ridiculous, but it works on both ends. I just don't think it should ever be a thing in any company. I mean, Instacart has it. Who else has it? Spark has it. Uber Eats has it. Like, we need to evolve as companies past it at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So hopefully the future will see tip baiting being a non-issue, but unfortunately for the time being, we still deal with it. So guys, instead of retaliating, just always call support, get a supervisor in the driver payments department on the phone, assuming it was Uber Eats, and tell them that you completed the contract based on the amount that you were offered and the customer violated the contract after the agreement was finished. And I have never personally had this not work for me. I have always been reimbursed the amount that I was tip baited. So don't retaliate. Just get your money. Just get your money. That's all you got to do. So, hey, man, we're covering a lot of Uber tonight, Kim. Let's move
We
on
are. Usually
to
we're DoorDash heavy, and like the
yeah,
last week was DoorDash heavy. Now we're like Uber Eats heavy tonight.
yeah, for sure. Let's move on to our last news article tonight. So this gentleman accepted an Uber Eats offer for one pie from McDonald's and was summoned to a nearby parking lot where he was instructed to wait in the car. And when he got in touch with his customer, he was told that they were Uber support and that because he was new, they were just trying to verify that he was who he said he was and that he was in the correct vehicle. And he was then asked a barrage of questions, security questions, right, for his account. So to verify, right? Meanwhile, you've got some scammer in some other country, who's already got his email address, because he's given it to him, who's now going through the security questions. Yeah. So we see scams all too often. And unfortunately, this guy learned on, within the first week or so of him being a driver.
So I a couple of things on this. So first of all, he I don't know how he thought that Uber Eats was testing him as a driver to ensure that the vehicle, and he said who he was, like it was a test order because it was $4 and it was just an apple pie and he actually believed it. Guys, these scammers are getting good.
Yeah,
But lately, I feel like they are targeting new drivers because experienced drivers would sniff this away like a mile away. Like they would know, yeah, no, nobody. This is just not even right. I think they're targeting new drivers because they're vulnerable because they don't know the app, they don't know support, they don't know the ins and outs and workings of these apps. So I think their newest thing lately is they're targeting new drivers. And I think it's amusing that he actually called Uber support after all of this and
hmm
they're like, yeah, we would never do that. Um, so I feel like a lot of times some of these drivers aren't even using common sense. To me, common sense says, why would I be giving anybody personal information? Any of these companies will never ask you for any personal information from you. So just please be careful.
definitely be careful. So about an hour and a half before the show started, speaking of drivers falling for it, I'd like to share a story of a driver not falling for it. An hour and a half before the show, my friend Pam called me, and she is a driver in my market, and she was working on a Spark order. She accepted I'm trying to remember the details here. This isn't one of our stories, and we don't have talking points, so I'm trying to remember the conversation. She accepted an express order on Spark, and I think it was paying like $12. She was already in the neighborhood, and she was only supposed to shop for one one of those like chauffeur, like basically like an instant meal or something, one of those like cheap instant frozen meals, just one. And it was being delivered about a mile down the road, mile and a half down the road, to one of the fanciest hotels in the city. So the problem is there wasn't a room number listed, and she had instructions to call when she got there, and it gave her a number in the instructions to call. And so she did. And when the person answered, they said it was Spark support. And so this person tries to convince her that they need to verify her account before she could get paid. And so she plays along. She knows the scams, and so she's essentially just trying to waste this person's time. And she plays along up until it gets to the point where he is going to get access to her branch account. In which case, she told him that you are not getting my money. You're wasting your time, and you aren't getting a cent from me. Meanwhile, while she's talking to this guy, she's going into her branch account just in case that she had already gotten compromised, and she was moving her money out of her branch account into her bank account. So when the guy realized that she knew he was a scammer, he said, an expletive and hung up on her. So, Pam, thank you for letting me share the, the story of your order. I see her in the comments there. So, not all drivers fall for it, but Pam sure didn't. So, uh, ooh, RSG just got a new member. Thank you so much for the support.
Thank you. Welcome.
Glad to have you.
So
Oh, it was a
I don't.
chicken pot pie. There we go.
Oh, chicken pot pie. All a scam over a chicken
Going
pot pie.
going to one of a single chicken pot pie. She said it was like $1.98 at the store, and it was going to one of the fanciest hotels in the city. So, yeah, they never tend to order big items. They're always really really small orders. So the guy who we just covered in that story, he had one apple pie. Pam had one chicken pot pie from like Stouffer's or something, whatever brand that is, and they never seem to order $50 worth of sushi or $100 worth of steak dinner. It's always something cheap. So this happened on Spark, guys. We've heard about this on DoorDash, on Uber Eats, like every app out there. They do not discriminate. So always verify for yourself. Support rarely calls. Never click links. Always treat anybody with skepticism who says that they're support, unless you call the app that's listed in the app. Call the phone number rather that's listed in the app.
And if you ever suspect a scam is going on, hang up and call whatever support you are working with. They will actually have record if they called you. Every single support person has a record of every chat, every phone conversation you've ever had with them. So they will have on your profile if someone actually called and talked with you, and most likely it will be a scam.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've covered quite a lot of news related topics. Let's lighten things up here with the funnies. Let's move on to what the funny, Kim.
What the
So
funny? I'm just kidding.
I was like, oh my gosh, is she actually gonna say it?
No,
All
I'm
right.
not. Come on.
So yeah, I know. It's like, man, that's like a me move, not a you move. All right, guys. So just a few miles there. Our DoorDash orders getting ridiculous. So I actually can't read the small print on this one. So let me zoom it in on okay. So wrong one. Go back. Where were we? So the first one for Cracker Barrel is 906 miles. Okay. That is a no tip order, 3 items. That better be the best damn Cracker Barrel in the entire country to expect a driver to go, what, 4 states away? To go almost 1,000 miles for a no tip order. So obviously, this is probably some sort of a glitch where it allowed them to do this. This frequently happens when a customer's on vacation somewhere or visiting somewhere else, and they forgot to change their delivery instructions. So it's kind of a DoorDash problem that they're allowed to order that far away, but it does happen from time to time. Have you ever seen one of these, Kim?
I personally have not. Um, I don't. When I was looking at these two, and we were talking about these two the other day, only thing that I was thinking was, I don't know what's worse. A customer ordering from hundreds of miles away that didn't tip, or a DoorDash who expected a driver to go 100 miles away for $2.75. Like, I was going back and forth on
Yeah.
literally which one was worse. To me, they're both equally as worse. But it's just, you know, I, it's probably a glitch. I've been like, even the other day, I don't know whether it was, and I said this, a test or a glitch. I was in full service area. I was actually even in Wi Fi because I was sitting outside of a restaurant that I knew
Yeah.
had Wi Fi. So it wasn't a service issue. But my order came up and it looked like a map of the United States, and it had a blue dot over, looked like New Jersey, but it was somewhere between New York and Washington, D.C. It had no items, no miles. It literally just had the actual the amount of the offer, and that was it.
They
It was a diamond order, and it was 11 plus dollars.
they might as well have just put gas LOL all over that and sent it to you. That's ridiculous.
I took it.
And oh, what happened?
So it was a diamond order and it was a plus order. So, you know, curiosity got me because I really wanted to see what happened. And
Yeah,
I figured it was a diamond plus. So, how bad could it really be? Because I'm like, well, at least it'll at least be $2 per mile, regardless of what it ends up being. So, I lucked out. It was only 3.8 miles. It was a really good restaurant. The
you did
subtotal
get lucky.
was over $100, and the payout actually ended up, I think, being like $16. So I got lucky with it, but I was just curious on what and how far it was going to go and what it was going to show me.
Yeah,
So I wanted, for my own purposes of my own channel, really to see what happened with the order.
that's fair. So the next one is a little more extreme. This is a meme I found on about DoorDash that I just found funny, and
It
I think
was
that
funny.
anybody who drives for DoorDash can relate to this. So let's go ahead and put that up there. So yeah, driver has 1 hour to accept the item. One order going 238,900 miles to the moon for $5.75.
Maybe
So
this is the way of the future.
I remember seeing a news article not too long ago about astronauts on the International Space Station getting a Uber Eats or DoorDash delivery or something somehow. And so, I mean, that's what I think of when I see that. It's obviously just a fun little meme, but I think that kind of illustrates how a lot of drivers feel in their market. Nowhere near enough pay for way too many miles.
I like that it actually
So
says 1 hour.
yeah, yeah, right. Let's go ahead and move on to this next one here. We're kind of to the easy stuff, and then I think we're going to answer a few questions like we did last time before we
Okay.
wrap up. So from time to time, we stumble across a really funny text from either a customer to a driver or a driver to a customer. This was obviously from the driver to a customer. And this says, at restaurant waiting for your food, as soon as ready, I'm going to run red lights. Everything will be hot and fresh. I'm Batman.
You got the voice down.
So I mean, can you imagine getting this text? I'm Batman? Like, what the hell, man? Like, I wonder if that
Would you
was like
give
some
them
sort
5
of
stars? Would you give
a,
them 5 stars for that, or would you give them 1 because you think it's
I'm
ridiculous?
I mean, like I mean, if it's like hot and fresh, like he's saying, yeah, sure, 5 stars, whatever. Just be safe, don't run red lights. Be careful, Batman. The world needs you.
Maybe it was the driver who went 100 miles per hour. Maybe he was
Could
Batman.
you imagine? Oh man, that would have been rich. So, the the final one that we have for you tonight is a very dangerous looking dog. So I don't know if you guys can see that. The closed gate, it says beware of dog. And in the background, you can see a very portly pig roaming around. And this was something we had found on Reddit. It says delivery instructions: set food outside of gate so pig won't eat it. So I found that humorous. The beware of dog sign, and then there's a big old pig visible in the image. So
That pig is
these,
ferocious.
that's a protection pig. It's
Is there such a thing?
I don't know. I don't
Are
know.
pigs
That's a good question.
ferocious? I don't even know. Are pigs ferocious? I feel like they're very,
I think they're docile.
docile. I would say, aren't they? Like really
Yeah, I think
calm
so.
animals.
But there are plenty of animals that are not dogs that there's what it's either alpacas or llamas that spit on you. Um yeah. So
Like
and like and those will actually protect your land too. Those can be a little aggressive. Peacocks can chase after you, and I'm sorry, I gotta be honest. If a peacock came running at me with that big old feather thing that they got going on, going crazy, squawking at me, I'd probably run away.
Has anybody had a delivery where an animal besides a dog greeted them? I'm just curious. I've only had like scary encounters with dogs. I've never had any
Hmm.
encounters with any animals besides cats and dogs. Just curious.
So I don't know that I was greeted by them, but I was really close to goats several times. I've been really close to sheep, horses, a raccoon.
Oh,
So I actually hid in the car for that one. Yeah, raccoons can be real mean. So
yeah.
the guy was in his yard working, and he had quite a long driveway, and so I saw the raccoon. I was like, "Hey, guy, there's a raccoon." So because he was like staring at me, I was like, "Yeah." But I didn't want the raccoon to eat the food, and I don't want to get a bunch of rabies shots in the ass because I got bit by a raccoon.
That way,
So
like, there you go. That could be a TikTok story that like blows up and can like just make you famous.
yeah, right. So those are our funnies for today. If you guys have any questions you want to get answered, I think Kim, are you good for another 10 minutes or so?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see if we can answer some questions here. So I know we missed a few earlier on. Okay, so if we scroll up, uh, Vestral Live, do you really like the Diamond program? Do you see that one?
I saw it. What time do you have the timestamp?
6:15, 9:15 your time.
9:15. I'm like 6:15. That was a while ago.
Yeah.
Forgetting time zones.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm coming. I went
No,
too
it's okay.
far. Yep, got it.
Okay. So and can we pull the slides down?
Yeah.
So this is one of those things that Kim and I probably, I think, probably don't agree on. You like the Diamond program, don't you?
It works for me in my area. So my area, I'm very fortunate. I live in a very good area, and I deliver to some really wealthy neighborhoods. So, and the area that I actually pick up from is in a downtown area that has lots of high-end restaurants, lots of restaurants in general. So I think just based off of my area, the Diamond
Mhm.
program does really well. And it just came to my area mid-March. So I feel like my state was the very last state to go Diamond program. So I've been doing a lot of testing with ARs, highs, lows, and what really works best in my area. And it really has been doing really well for me. And,
Mhm.
you know, I can't say that it hasn't because I'm still making my goals. But I'm also, to preface this, I'm also on the large order program as well. I'm on the pizza bag program. Like I'm on, I think, every program that DoorDash has to offer. So that could be the reason why I'm seeing such good results as well.
Yeah. So I was one of the first markets to get the program, and I got it back in like June or yeah, I think it was June of last year, and it made no difference for me. So, and that was back when they were promising $2 a mile during delivery, and they've changed the wording slightly. They've given themselves more wiggle room. They've made it a little more vague since then. So it did not make a difference for me. I was seeing plenty of garbage orders, and it didn't. I just didn't see an uptick. It didn't do anything for me. So that's just my perspective.
I think it
Oh, go ahead.
varies literally based off of your area and knowing your area. I know some drivers who hate it and think it's like the worst thing ever. I know some drivers who love it and are top dashers and are making a killing on it. I think it completely
Yeah,
varies by your own area, your own state,
for sure.
region. Like it's something that not every person's going to have the same result.
Yeah, and if something works for you in your market, keep doing it. If you're making a comfortable living doing what you're doing, then don't let me or Kim, change your mind. It's ultimately it's not our money, it's yours. So if the program works for you, keep doing it. If it doesn't, cherry pick like I do. It's
Yeah.
it just boils down to what you can do in your market.
I
So,
always say
and actually, matter of fact, what's that?
No, I was gonna say, I always say, run your like this is a business, and I always treat my everyday like a business. And this was when I was part time, even doing this full time. Like, run your business the way that you want to run it, whether you're getting better results cherry picking or whether you're getting better results as, a top dasher and utilizing the diamond program. Run your business and, just go out and make your money the way you want to make it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of bullshit and bad information out there, but ultimately at the end of the day, if something works for you, keep making it work for you. And when it stops working, adjust your strategy and do something else.
Yeah. I'm going to put up this question right here.
Yeah.
Is Top Dasher going away?
I've got some theories.
I have some theories too. So right now, let's think about it. Top Dasher, literally the only perk is Dash Now whenever you want. Like that's just literally the only perk. I personally think that it's going to get rolled into one of these other programs. And what I would like to see happen to it, I think it would roll really well into the large order program just based off of the high level of expectations of both of those programs. That's what I would like to see happen. Whether that happens is all speculation, but I think it will eventually get rolled into one of the programs, whether it's Diamond, LOP, something I think is going to happen with it.
Yeah. So the large order program doesn't, there's a lot of drivers that think it does for some reason, but the large order program does not have an acceptance rate requirement, contrary to popular
Mhm.
belief. So I could see them trying to do something like that. But at the same time, I think if anything, what we'll see is this just quietly go away. So because they're, as of right now, right, if you look at the diamond program, you need a 50% acceptance rate to be in the diamond program. And with Top Dasher, and and it's one perk, you need a 70% acceptance rate. So between those two programs, they're squeezing an extra 20% acceptance rate out of the drivers. So I could eventually see it going away, yes, but in the meantime, they're getting an extra 20% out of these drivers who make the assumption that they're getting something that they probably aren't a lot of times. So in the future, yeah, it'll probably go away or get rolled into something. But for right now, I think that they're probably enjoying the fact that they're getting an extra 20%.
I I I think so for some drive like the Dash Now is probably the one and only reason why a lot of people do Top
Mhm.
Dasher. And I can be completely wrong, but that's the reason why I'm a Top Dasher is because I can't schedule for the life of me in my own
Yeah.
market. My map is always gray. You can never get on a schedule. And because the orders on the diamond program are actually really good in my area, I'm able to maintain it. I don't even do a hell
Mhm.
week anymore just because I maintain it throughout the month. But that's like literally the only reason why I like Top Dasher is because of that perk. I think they still need that somewhere in order to incentivize drivers to still keep getting high acceptance rates, which is what they're ultimately, in my opinion, trying to do. They're trying to get orders delivered. That's their main goal and their main purpose in life.
Completely. And honestly, they could achieve the same thing by paying us a reasonable base pay, but we'll probably never see that.
Yeah, and they are, I know in some markets, they are testing the Top Dasher program that you actually drivers have to maintain a 70% acceptance rate in order to become a Top Dasher throughout the entire month. So I found that on Reddit and on Facebook this past like a month or like those last 2 weeks that people became top dashers. A lot of people were complaining that it changed in their market, that they now have to maintain a 70% acceptance rate. That's rough.
Yeah. So let's highlight Tony's comment here, the driven dad. I'd like to see DoorDash give the large order program a filter so you only get the big ones. That would be the dream, right? But when
That
they're
would be I don't think they can do it based off of it would come across as discriminating against other drivers. I don't think
yeah,
it they can do it
it'd be freaking
fairly
sweet
enough.
though.
It would be awesome. Are
Yeah.
you kidding me? Everybody on the large order program would be like racking in all the bucks.
Yeah, for sure. So Ride Shift Dude says, when will DoorDash require pictures? So I think we need a little bit more clarification with that, what you're asking for specifically. They have required pictures for leave it at the door orders as long as I can remember, as long as I've been driving. And they recently started requiring them for to verify drivers' accounts. And that was within what, the last couple of months?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
I've had to do it once, and I barely got through it. My ancient iPhone 6 barely let me get through that. It kept freezing on the verification stage, so I almost wasn't able to drive for DoorDash anymore, or I would have had to like sign into a different phone or something to do it.
Oh, wow. Um, is earned by time isn't everywhere. It's actually not in my area yet. Once again, I was like the last to come to the party on the Diamond program, so it has not come to my area. I don't have it in New Jersey yet, so
So
I don't think it's everywhere yet.
I can actually tell, excuse me, I can actually tell when DoorDash starts rolling that out to more and more markets because I did a video on that a while back, and randomly that video will start spiking in like search traffic just out of nowhere. I'm like, oh, they rolled it out more places, I see. But no, Thomas, it's not everywhere. They're very selective about where they deploy earn by time.
Yeah.
So, Kim, I feel like this is probably a good place for us to wrap it up for the evening. What do you say?
I thank you guys for joining us again for our second episode. I feel like we covered a lot and
We did.
had some really great conversations tonight. So thank you
Yeah.
everybody in the chat who was involved in, keeping the chat going.
Yeah. So next Wednesday, same time, same place. This is going to be a weekly show. We hope to see you again for Money Hungry.
Bye everyone.
Take care.